Now, when you think of the worst ever Premier League season, you probably think of Derby County 2007 or 8, which you are not incorrect. However, there's been a team in recent years that has had a season just as bad. A forgotten team of the Premier League in recent seasons. Of course, it is Huddersfield Town. Promoted in dramatic circumstances on penalties against Reading, Christopher Schindler takes that chance in that beautiful neon green and black kit and sends the Terriers to the Premier League. Yes, they are named after a dog. It's even in their badge. And it's cute. Now, you may think I'm being dramatic saying that they were as bad as Derby. However, statistically, they are. Not by points, but by how fast they were relegated, as they suffered the earliest relegation in England's top flight history, joint with Derby in 2008 on the 30th of March. 16 points, minus 54 goal difference, and 20 points separating them, and just staying up in 17th, Brighton and Hove Albion. Brighton was 17th? Christ! And if I was a Huddersfield fan, I would be thanking Wolverhampton Wanderers with my life, as 6 of their 16 points was from Wolves. And where did Wolves were 7th? Honestly, no clue. So subscribe if you're new, drop a like, let's try to hit 2,500 likes, and also tell me your thoughts down below in the comments on what video I should do next. And of course, mazzoladesigns.co.uk. Of course, if you're a Huddersfield fan, I doubt you're watching this, but if you are, Christopher Schindler and Aaron Moy, Feet Man United, both their prints are on the site right now. Use code Terriers for 20% off all orders. Of course, every order on the site is 20% off for the next 2 days. Now, I'm going to say a word that's going to scare a ton of Huddersfield Town fans. Adama Diakabi. Whoa, okay, we're going too far ahead. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. After an underwhelming 15-16 season, they end the year in 19th place, ending the year losing 4-0 away to Bristol City and losing 5-1 at home to Brentford. Spending the last 4 years just being relatively happy on just staying up, with a 19th, 17th, 16th, and of course 19th place finish. No one really expected much of Huddersfield Town. Signing a German called David Wagner, they had 1 or 2 decent players in their team, the likes of Jonathan Hogg and Nyaki Wells. Their star man being Nyaki Wells, but realistically they didn't really have much hope going into next year other than simply staying up. However, something happened. The German Revolution. Christopher Schindler, boom. Chris Lau, boom. Michael Hefele, boom. Sometimes it is as simple as just to get 3 big Germans in your defence. Suddenly, you're pretty decent. Oh yeah, and also loans, pretty decent too. Elias Kachunga from Ingolstadt. I've said that incorrect. And a man called Aaron Moy, you may have heard of him from Man City, and a Dutchman in Van der Pala. Suddenly, their team has got a lot better under David Wagner. Despite not being the highest goal scorers in the entire division, they can keep teams out, finishing in the playoffs in 5th place, with an incredible -2 goal difference. Compared to the rest of the division, they had incredibly limited resources, a lower profile compared to other clubs, which made it harder for them to bring in players that they wanted. So they made the most out of what they had, based on a strong defense and team unity. Because as the saying goes, hard work beats talent every day of the week. And that is why Wagner, who of course was a coach and a friend of Jurgen Klopp, brought a high intensity style of play to the championship and implemented a pressing style of play in the championship, which wasn't too known at that time. But hey, you know what? They were at Wembley and they were happy of just simply being there. But they went even further and beat Reading in a penalty shootout to send them all the way to the promised land. And as what one great man once said, and he takes that chance. Anyway, 17-18, and they were having fun. Did Huddersfield Town fans really have any hopes? Probably not. They were probably happy just simply being there. Being in the Prem, playing United, City, Liverpool, Arsenal, away days across the entirety of the Premier League, because keep in mind, this is their first time back in the top flight since 1972. We're talking about 2-3 generations seeing this for the first time. And before the promotion season, they were predominantly mainly a tier 3 team, a League 1 team. So being in top flight was just absolute dreamland. So how would David Wagner keep Huddersfield up? How can he pull off the impossible? Well, he went to the market, spending over £40 million. He needed a striker. Okay, Steve Mooney. Boom. Around £10 million for a signature at Huddersfield Town was insanity. Aaron Moy from Man City came on loan, make that permanent. Simple. Kachunga was on loan, well now he's there permanently. Oh, I forgot Tom Ince was even there, you know? Laurent de Poitre. De Poitre? This guy with the beard. They had to be realistic and knew that they had to make the most out of their strengths. First game of the season, Crystal Palace away. I mean, this was going to be a pretty obvious tough game, right? Palace, some good players, Premier League, they're just going to be beat, right? Right? No. Crystal Palace 0. Huddersfield Town 3. Normal. I remember this like it was yesterday when everyone went mental. Next game, Huddersfield defeat Newcastle. I mean, obviously now they're going to fall flat. No, 1-0 Huddersfield Town, and look at the table. Huddersfield Town are top of the Premier League. Realistically, they couldn't maintain this form, but they did keep one thing consistent, and that is when it came to facing a team at home that they had to get 3 points, they usually made it count. In the big games that mattered, they got at least a point or the 3 points that they needed. West Brom at home, they got the points. Brighton at home, they got the points. Bournemouth, Watford, West Brom. They stayed consistent by beating the teams around them and got the 3 points when necessary. Top players, Jonas Lascelles in goal, Jorgensen, Schindler, Aaron Moy, and of course Steve Mooney. Scoring goals was always a concern as they only scored 28, which was pretty low. That was actually the joint lowest goals scored across the entire division. Funnily enough, the team that went down in 20th, West Brom, scored more goals and conceded less goals than Huddersfield Town, but they did not do it when it mattered, and that is what sealed their fate. So that is what got them to this stage. They're in the Premier League and they stayed up. Chelsea away, 1-1 draw, huge scenes and beautiful celebrations at Stamford Bridge. What's next? Well, I think you know what happened. Okay, so remember when I said that they didn't really score many goals and they got the goals when it mattered? Well, this year that didn't happen, so let me set the scene here. They went to the market and said, we need goals. That's a big problem. So let's go get some goals. So they signed some attackers. They were called Adama Diakabi and Ramadan Sobi, a left winger in Sobi and a striker in Diakabi, a young, talented French striker from Monaco. How many goals do you think they scored? Actually, no. How many games do you think they played? Around 15 million was spent on these two players alone, and from that, in this season, 7 starts combined with 0 goals. But it's okay because they got Steve Mooney and Kachunga, right? 2 goals between them. The top goal scorer was a player signed in January from League One Charlton for about £1 million. In Colin Grant. The top goal scorer in the entire league this season was Colin Grant with 4 goals. They scored only 22 goals all season, which is only 2 goals away from Derby's 20 in their famous 07-08 season. They only won 3 games and finished without a win in their final 11 games, going 14 games without a win. Actually, well, 14 games and 13 being losses with only 1 draw. Thank you, Cardiff. Until the inevitable Wolverhampton Wanderers came to town and gave them the big 3 points, and they went back to normal, not winning in the next 11 games. But scoring goals was always a problem, but defensively, how were they? Well, they signed a young Dutch talent in Congolo from Monaco too. And was he good? Simply put, they needed much more. Also, one key thing that people like to put onto them is something called second season syndrome. This is a phrase which has been coined with a lot of teams, and this comes with Huddersfield Town. That's simply put, a team can get found out tactically, and that you know what to do against them and how to counteract their strengths. And they didn't have the best strengths. If there was a okay player from the season, it was going to be Philip Billing, who of course, as we've seen with Bournemouth, is actually a pretty good player in what was a pretty poor squad. Only issue is, injuries took a big hit to him too, as for the second half of the year, when he was needed, he was injured. And this was a consistent theme for quite a lot of the players, unfortunately. And with limited resources and a lack of depth because of it, it was always inevitable of what was going to happen next. And of course, address the elephant in the room here, David Wagner was not there the entire season, which was a big part of the massive glue that held the team together, as he did leave by mutual consent back in 2019 in January. The reasonings was that he simply took them as far as he possibly could due to the budget that he had, and he felt like he couldn't do any more. And when Wagner went, this all but sealed their fate. Who replaced Wagner? A man called Jan Stewart, who managed Borussia Dortmund too, the B team of Dortmund. Quite a big jump from, B team football to the Premier League. So what now? The Terriers are now relegated and going back down to the Championship. What is there to expect for Huddersfield? Well, they have got Powership payments, and maybe that they've got some experience on how to get back up with that money. Maybe they'll be able to bounce back up again. And they finished 18th. It was always going to be a tough year, and with the likes of Colin Grant that did sign in the last year, they knew that they had a decent player in their hands, and it turned out to be pretty decent, with 19 goals in the league that year. The only problem is the rest of the team was pretty bad. They started their season with not a single win in their first 9 games, losing 7 of the first 8. Back-to-back relegations was a serious risk for Huddersfield Town. So unsurprisingly, the B team coach at Borussia Dortmund got sacked pretty fast, and a man called Danny Cowley took his place instead. They did a pretty good job at Lincoln City. A lot of the best players left the club during this time period, in the likes of Jorgensen, Philip Billing, Sabri, Van Depotra, and Lossier as well. Aaron Moy also left in January too. They brought in around 25 million worth of players, and they spent all of their money pretty much on one. All of their money, which was about 10 million, and the second biggest signing was about 200 grand. This signing of Vizeh was a problem as they signed him on a loan with an obligation to buy him in the next season. So the money that went on him for the next season was pretty much most of the money that they had. And it is a shame that in this year, it didn't quite work out. Again, one start in the league. What about Adama Diakabi? Well, he's still there and he started 9 times. Still 0 goals. Quite a lot of players were inconsistent throughout this year, meaning that they couldn't really score goals and relying heavily on Colin Grant. A lot of their squad was built on high pressing and a strong core identity, and with Wagner gone, a lot of that was now missing. So despite in the past their defence saving them from losing more games than they would have typically, with that now gone, it now made it inevitable for them to stop falling down the table. They had a pretty good midfield with the likes of O'Brien, Hogg, Bakuna and Trevor Chalobah, and the likes of Emil Smith-Rowe on loan made it a bit exciting at times. But with an 18th place finish, at least maybe next year is the year. They almost got relegated. So there you go, boys, that is the review on Huddersfield Town. Of course, they did almost get back into the Premier League not too long ago. Of course, losing the playoff final to Nottingham Forest with the man Carlos Corberán. So they weren't particularly dead, but this era of Huddersfield was pretty much finished, and it almost ended them to almost suffering back-to-back relegations. As it stands, they are now starting another season in the Championship with under Neil Warnock, and surviving after a incredible survival at the end of last year that they were a sure thing to go down. Only time can tell what will happen at Huddersfield in the future. Tell me your thoughts and memories of Huddersfield in Premier League and your thoughts on them as a club, and actually what club should I do next. And I'll see you next time. Peace out.